let's start with the important stuff, Dan.
All right.
Executive Director, Product Development and Mobility. So what does the day job look like for you?
That's a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
At Hyundai Capital, that entails launching all the new programs and products that we go to market with. Product development piece is on the consumer side of the business, where we launch the programs that are in market, but within mobility, that's where we're venturing into the new equipment space. And that would launch products, financial, leasing products, et cetera, to support any mobility initiatives for the enterprise.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. And that leads me nicely up to my first substantive question, because I've made a bet with myself that at least a couple of you are here thinking, Hyundai, isn't this ELFA? So you're very, very well known for your cars, but tell us about the equipment and mobility side of the business.
Yeah, let me start by setting a little perspective here. Hyundai Capital, as you mentioned, is in the car business. We support the third largest automaker in the world, right? We've been doing so for 36 plus years. But now the enterprise is venturing into these new lines of business. And that's what we're here to do, is support those new lines of business as they expand into trucks, trailers, et cetera.
Cool. And so then as you think about those new lines of business going forward, what does the future look like? What's the next 5 to 10 years?
So really the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to empower the vision of the enterprise. And that's going to look at trailers.
Okay, sorry, we're good.
I felt nobody noticed. Sorry, Dan.
That's okay. As I was mentioning, we're going to empower their vision.
Right.
We're going to support it with the same level of enthusiasm and momentum in which they bring new product to market, and delivering those exceptional experiences to every customer and dealer. So now as mobility evolves and changes over the next few years, the focus is going to be on meeting the Hyundai, Kia, Genesis customers where they are, as well as any new customers that need the products that the enterprise are bringing to the marketplace.
Right.
When you look at where the market is, there's new products, business lines, et cetera, coming to the U.S. And as they arrive, we're going to be there to support those products along the way.
Cool. So I'll just do a quick preheat for you guys that Dan says he will take questions from the audience. So get thinking. Hopefully I won't suck up all the oxygen and there will be that time. But thinking about those financial products.
Well, if we can take one step back, though, I do want to announce that, we're talking about we're a car company and where we're going. And I keep talking about, new mobility, equipment, et cetera. We've actually partnered, or in the process of partnering with Hyundai Translate. Hyundai Translate is a leading dry and refrigerated van trailer manufacturer in the USA.
Yeah.
And we're actually partnering with them to launch Hyundai Translate Capital.
Okay.
That's set to launch very soon, so be on the lookout for that. That's going to be our first real foray into the equipment space.
Cool. Exciting times. So building on that theme, any new financial products you've rolled out you're looking to, subscriptions, pay-per-use, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're going to offer a full complement of lease and loan products to support the new business lines. But as far as new financial products, there's a few things we've been testing out in the marketplace. One is a vehicle subscription. The intent there is to provide vehicles to consumers and meet them where they are. As affordability is challenged, people want to access vehicles in a different format, and we're preparing for that future. We know it's probably a couple years out, but we're setting the ground floor right now to be prepared to support.
Right.
Additionally, we've launched and are growing our partnerships within fleet as a service space. The intent there is to threefold. One, deliver new revenue opportunities for our dealer partners in the form of short-term rentals. Two, we want to prevent any of our off-lease inventory going into the auction marketplace, because that can impact future values. And three, we want to enhance our brand visibility of our world-class EV portfolio, because that is an EV-centric program at the moment. Not to say it can't evolve into others, but we're focused on our EV inventory right now because Hyundai is fully committed into the EV space and the green space, as you'll see.
Okay, interesting. And I think one thing we talk about a lot here, and a big part of this idea of momentum, is innovation. And I think we consider ourselves to be a very innovative industry. Yeah. But the stuff that you've described is like drinking through a fire hose. That's a lot of innovation. So how do you approach it?
Well, I'll say that our OEMs are trailblazers. I mean,
Right.
if you look at the broader enterprise across the globe, you know, here in the U.S. it's primarily cars,
Right.
and we're mentioning trailers coming soon. But if you look broadly, there's robotics, there's eVTOLs, you know, there's commercial vehicles. You name it, the enterprise basically develops and builds it.
Right.
So as our trailblazers, we want to match that momentum here in the U.S. with the same level of enthusiasm to take on these new bold initiatives. And at HCA, you know, what we've said is innovation isn't just a strategy for us, it is embedded in our DNA, and we're going to innovate along the way to
Right.
support all these new initiatives.
And how much crossover is there between you and the OEMs? Do you share innovation capability, discuss innovation?
So we absolutely collaborate 100% with our OEM partners,
Right.
identifying their needs for the marketplace, and then how do we support those needs. And in that process, there is decisions that we jointly make together, but it is imperative that we're lockstep with our OEM partners to deliver what is needed in the marketplace.
Right. And I know from our other conversations that you guys it really feels like you're moving at the speed of light. So in doing that was a very knowing nod. In doing that, you must face some challenges. So what kind of challenges are there out there?
Resources,
Right.
plain and simple, right? The people and the technology that's needed to support this evolution in the space. We, for the past 36 years, have been a auto consumer lender. Car is all we do. We do not have the proper systems, so we need to launch new systems, new processes that are going to accommodate these new asset types that we grow into.
Okay. So it sounds like you're growing and you're facing down these challenges at the same time. How are you approaching that?
Absolutely. Well, we're launching in this new journey. You know, I mentioned that our legacy systems are auto-centric. So we've launched this journey to establish a new equipment lending and leasing platform and integrating the necessary third-party vendors that are going to allow us to execute on this growth plan going forward. So that's underway at the moment, and it's going to be a long journey,
Right.
as you being in the technology space are aware of. But we're prepared to take that journey to establish the systems necessary to accommodate this growth going forward.
And so from a technology standpoint, obviously that's, well, I've obviously got a horse in this race, but it feels to me like that's the fulcrum of everything. So what are you doing from a technology standpoint?
Yeah, so obviously we have a strategic partnership, right? We are working with Alpha to launch this new equipment and lending platform. And it's that shared commitment that we're working towards to drive this transformative innovation at Hyundai Capital.
Yeah.
Because we see the need and we want to develop the forward-thinking programs to support the future shape of our business. So working in collaboration with Alpha, you know, we're on this journey, and it is going to be a long journey.
It is like drinking through a fire hose.
Yeah.
Look, I want to be respectful of all of your time and having Dan available here to take questions. So let's open it up to the audience. I'll repeat any questions that are asked, but would anybody like to ask anything of Dan? Cam Kruger,
Yeah.
do it.
So I love the pivot from the consumer to commercial finance.
There you go.
You gave me a microphone. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Used to that. So I love the pivot from the commercial to the consumer. But you mentioned a subscription model. And subscription model has been way more successful in the commercial space than the consumer space. How do you expect to pivot that, particularly into consumer automobile space? How do you expect to pivot that back in to make it successful both in consumer and commercial credits?
So quickly, if anybody didn't hear that, Cam's question was about the pivot for subscription type products from consumer into the commercial space.
Yeah. No, great question. Because we're just launching within the consumer space, we're learning, right? What should it look like? What should the process, et cetera? And as we grow into the equipment space, the intent is to replicate to a degree what we learn in the consumer space and apply it into the commercial space from a process perspective primarily, technology perspective, what do we need to make it successful? So that's the intent, is we're learning on the consumer side so that we can leverage the learnings to apply into the equipment space in the future.
And how easy is it to do that?
I would suggest right now it's not easy.
Right.
And that's because there's a lot of unknowns in the space. You know, in the consumer world, we've seen subscription programs tried by numerous manufacturers. They've come and gone, right? You can name it by any OEM captive, they've done it. I think where we're uniquely positioned is where the focus has been on EVs. And we've partnered with key other providers as well for the user interface, and then eventually partnering with Alpha on the back side of it to create a comprehensive end-to-end solution that'll make it easier for the equipment commercial customers to execute when we're ready.
Brilliant, thank you. Thanks for the question, Cam. Any other questions? Right there.
Hello, my name is Xiang. I work for Toyota Financial Services, actually commercial finance. My first question, actually I have two questions. The first question is, when you say you enter equipment financing, are you financing your own product, or is it a private label to finance other manufacturers' product?
Yeah, no, great question. If you look at the enterprise, Hyundai enterprise as a whole, you know they produce steel. They do anything from producing the steel to producing the car to producing eVTOLs, right? Where we're jumping into first is trailers. So Hyundai Translead is the leading trailer manufacturer in the US at the moment. So that's going to be the first. So it is within the brand family. And then eventually we're going to do robotics. Many of you may or may not be familiar with Boston Dynamics. That's a Hyundai family-owned company. We're going to produce that. If you've seen Supernal, the eVTOLs, that'll come in short order. We're going to be the captive for the Supernal. So it's all these different verticals within the enterprise that we're going to be supporting.
Yeah, thank you. That's very similar for Toyota's story. Like we do similar things.
And forklifts, etc. You have HD, the
Yes.
Hyundai, yes.
Yes, it's like, but it's sometimes it's under different brand name, but it's all under the same group.
Yeah.
My second question is really around what you talk about the fleet. So with EV, can you explain a little bit more about the business model? Is that you have your off lease coming off, and then you kick it back to the dealer and put on the rental fleet, or how did that work?
No, great question. We've taken a step back, and we want to make this asset light for our dealers. So with units coming off lease, our intention is to retain ownership of those units and allow them to be utilized in the dealer rental, short-term rental model for any of the dealer's needs. You know, most OEM manufacturers today require dealers to have service loaner lines, DRACs, etc. But that's an asset burden to the OEM, and that's what we're doing, is we're removing that asset burden, owning the equipment, and allowing the dealer to utilize it in the way they need to generate additional revenue. And there will be a sharing of the revenues, etc., between our parties.
This could easily be a question for both of you, but I'll ask it of you, Dan. In producing this capability, presumably the idea of doing private labeling or white labeling has at least crossed the mind of you and your colleagues. Is that something that could be on the agenda going forward?
It could be. Hyundai, we're very proud in being able to deliver and having our name, the Hyundai name on things. So I think at the moment it's going to be under the Hyundai umbrella, but there could be an opportunity in the future to do a private or white label.
Cool.
With the right partners.
Right. Any other questions for Dan? Turner.
You mentioned the many different initiatives, Hyundai Translead, the robotics, the fleet as service, but also that you're resource constrained. So how do you go about thinking about which initiatives to prioritize at any given point?
Great question. We look at what's the most immediate need of the enterprise, what's tangible here and now today, which we pivoted immediately because we went on a journey where we were going to support our dealer channel business, small commercial fleet business through our dealer channel, direct to the OEM. However, the Translead opportunity all of a sudden came forward. So we had to pivot and move away from building out the dealer channel capabilities to the Translead capabilities. When you go through the rest of the coming soon, I'll call them attractions, it's going to be what is literally coming next into the US. That's how we'll prioritize going forward.
Yeah, you talked about it a few times there with the dealer aspect of it all, right? And trying to work with them. How does that process sort of come together for you guys? Because, you know, they're running their own businesses. You're trying to find the best way to find your success as a financial services company, working with the dealers and getting them in a position where, you know, the program works for them and for their needs.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. When we initially launched the subscription program, for example, we made the dealer the asset owner, operator, everything. We just brought the technology to execute. Where we've since started migrating to, and this is where we're going with fleet as a service, to make it more attractive to the dealer, is, as I mentioned, making it asset light for the dealer. We're going to own that asset, take that burden off of them, but give them the same level of technology and process support to deliver operational excellence on their end so that they're delivering to their customers. So that's how we're making it better for the dealers, more acceptable to the dealers, because one of the biggest keys to the dealers is that asset and that expense associated with the asset. If you can take that away, it modifies the equation and makes it more attractive to the dealer.
It's kind of an interesting concept that you, in my experience, you hear a lot more in auto than equipment finance. They're talking about the customer and the dealer customer. Yeah. And it sounds like you've got this very customer-centric view of the dealership.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the end user who goes into the product is customer number one. Our dealers are equally as important, and that's why we've migrated into these different models to support with the consideration of their needs.
Cool.
Yeah.
The gentleman there had a question, I think. Thanks, Shelby.
Hi, Joseph Mulicano from Team Wheel. The move towards bundled solutions and subscription is blurring the lines between the captive and the manufacturer. So going forward, what is your expectation in terms of role of a captive?
That's a good question. Thank you. As we were mentioning earlier, we collaborate 100% with our OEM partners. The OEM's intent is to sell their finished product, correct? We want to help effectively deliver their products to the end users. And the subscription is one way in which we see showing or making the product available to customers so that they can easily test it, try it before ultimately committing. I also did mention the reason why we're doing it is because of affordability. I mean, the average price of an automobile anymore is nearly $50,000, right? So we wanted to address affordability, access to our product so that customers can become familiar with the product, and then ultimately if they make that decision to buy or lease, they can go do so. So it's not that we're working against the OEMs, we're actually collaborating with the OEMs jointly to deliver these products to get end users into their vehicles.
And thinking about affordability from a consumer perspective, are you seeing the same trends? You looking at the same priorities from a B2B perspective? Because particularly smaller enterprises are going to have serious affordability constraints too.
Absolutely, because our immediate DNA is within the dealer channel, and it is small business enterprises that reach out to the dealership. They have the same concerns, right?
Yeah.
It was mentioned in the keynote earlier, you know, tariffs. Any business is being impacted by tariffs, by taxes, et cetera. And we want to a degree, replicate what we do in the consumer world with the focus of the consumer and their needs into the fleet and the equipment space ultimately.
Any other questions for Dan? Okay. I've got one final question for you, Dan, which is kind of dear to my heart, having been involved in a growing business for quite some time. You're obviously a subsidiary of a very large multinational business. How do you think about culture, creating culture, keeping that sort of distinct culture while also having that amazing identity, which is the Hyundai brand?
That's a loaded question.
Sorry.
I think within Hyundai, people come to Hyundai because of the culture.
Right.
Right? They want to work for that global, multifaceted enterprise, as you mentioned. And we just continuously reinforce. And what we're starting to do also is do a lot more movement globally so that, you know, local talent, and I say local, the US talent, can experience the real culture from headquarters.
Right.
And bring that back and begin to incorporate so it becomes more ingrained. But that's really key, is continuously drive the message of Hyundai, what that culture needs to be, which is really a focus on human mankind and delivering for any and every one of our single customers.
That's a pretty decent way to sign off. But Scott's got one.
Yes.
Oh, we have time, Scott, don't worry.
Thank you. So following on to the cultural question that you posed, Andrew, when you look at the staff in the United States, how do you meld them in with the staff in Korea, and for that matter, other countries in the world? Do you have people take 2-year assignments in Korea? Do you have Koreans come over to the United States for a couple of years assignments? How do you mix up the people and their assignments?
Yeah. It's beginning to evolve today. For the longest time, individuals from Korea have come to work in the U.S. to support our growth as we've been maturing. Hyundai Capital in the U.S. is a very young entity, and that was one way also to instill the culture, right, is by bringing the global talent. It's going to be the objective of the organization going forward to start supplement the U.S. talent elsewhere, so that we can start rotating people around and share different perspectives and learnings across the globe. And that'll help create a more unified, I believe, culture throughout. So there'll be more movement going forward. Thanks.
Right. Well, I'm still going to rewind and close this out on doing everything for the good of humankind, because that just feels like a power close from you, Dan. Really appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to Dan. Please keep tabs on what Hyundai Capital is doing, because it's really cool stuff, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more from them. But in the meantime, would you please join me in thanking Dan for sharing and answering the questions?
Thank you.